Hey there, gang. Happy Sunday. It is 90 degrees outside, so I am comfortably bunkering down in my apartment today. That's why I have the fan going right now, and I ain't paying electric for the AC at the moment, so I'm going to enjoy what I have for the time being. So while I was here, I actually watched Battle for the Planet of the Apes. For those of you who don't know, I am a huge fan of the original 5 Planet of the Apes movies. I could prove it to you. Right next to me, I have a whole bunch of the original mecha figures. Here I have Caesar and Aldo, so there we are. And that being said, since I finished the movie, I actually wanted to make this quick little, very just informal video for this little idea that I had in mind. I wanted to go into the original 5 movies, this is excluding the Burton one and the new quadrilogy, and rank the movies based on their endings, not on the movies themselves. I've done that on a tier list on my main channel player display. If you want to check that out, it's in the description somewhere. So I just wanted to rank these endings because the really interesting thing about these films is even though all of them definitely vary in quality, your mileage will determine which ones are your favorites or your least favorites, all of them have very depressing endings, but I think they're all good, interestingly enough. I think all the endings in these films work very well in respect to the stories that they're trying to tell. Maybe except for one, but I mean, that's why I'm creating this list. So, anyways, enough mincing words, I'm just going to hop right into it. I have very vague notes. I just wrote down the order in which I rank them, and this is really just comes down to preference, although it's pretty objective, I think. So, anyways, in 5th place, we have Beneath the Planet of the Apes. This is a second movie, and it is notoriously what most people say is the worst movie of the entire franchise. For me, not quite. I'd say maybe the Burton one is probably at my bottom, but I shouldn't say that because I haven't given that movie the time of day, I haven't watched it in full, but from what I've seen, I think I can pass. But I appreciate Beneath in that it takes so many creative liberties, despite the wackiness in that Charlton Heston didn't really want to be there. That's why he was only at the beginning and at the end of the movie, so that's why the movie was so jumbled up for the most part, but that's still not an excuse for how terrible the direction was and retreading the story of the original with Brent and all of that. But anyways, the way that this movie concludes, again, we're just focusing on the endings for today, is the Alpha Omega bomb that is being heralded by the mutants as their god blows up. And before that, literally everything else happens. Brent gets shot, Ursus gets shot, Zaya starts yelling at Taylor, and Taylor detonates a bomb, and the whole world is blown up. Not just that little community of apes and the mutants, the entire planet's gone. I mean, that's kind of insane, but then again, this is coming from a time period where the fear of atomic bombs was a very real thing. It's still a real thing, but back then, that's when it was really at its apex, I'd argue. So the reason why I have this at the bottom of the list is because it speaks to the WTF nature of this entire film. Even though I don't hate this movie, I really can't find it in me to absolutely despise it. It still has its charm. It's trying to do something interesting. And that's why I love all 5 of these movies in different ways. All of them try doing something new. And that's either a strength or a weakness, depending on what you want from an Apes movie, right? So, as for Beneath, I mean, it's bonkers from the beginning. I mean, you see the hallucinations, like, Taylor falls into that cavern wall and disappears, and Nova's left alone. Then this new dude, Brent, shows up with a buddy, and his buddy dies. And then we're seeing these, like, illusions of fire that's, like, throwing off the ape army. Then you see the mutants, they peel off their faces. There's a lot of WTF moments in this film, and the ending is certainly one of them, so it's keeping with the theme of just throwing you a whole bunch of left punches out of nowhere. So it's a very bold ending, but at the same time, it kind of feels like a cop-out of doing something that's genuinely poetic and interesting, like I think all the other 4 endings that we have on this list are. Instead, it's like, yeah, we don't really know how to wrap this bitch up, so let's just blow up the world and put a cap on this one. So, yeah, no matter, even though there are things I genuinely do enjoy about this movie, I really love Ursus for the little time that we have him. The returning actors do a really good job for the limited window that they all possess. And even Brent, I don't think he's anyone's favorite necessarily, but he's well acted, he's there. I mean, he's just new Taylor, basically. But it all just boils down to this ending, and it's just saying, oh yeah, everything that happened in this movie, forget about it, not a big deal. But it does have a little bit more meaning when we do get into the next three movies in the chronology. But again, we're not ranking these movies based on when they came out, we're ranking them based on endings. So what is my fourth favorite ending of this quintilogy? Quin being 5, I guess you could say. Honestly, it gets a little gray, because I think all these next four are pretty strong in their own way, but ultimately, just in terms of my personal preference, I had to give the fourth spot to Escape from the Planet of the Apes. This is a movie that comes right after Beneath, and I'd say, objectively, this is the second best movie in the 5, again, excluding the Burton movie and the later quadrilogy. Of course, we learn after the events of Beneath, 3 apes actually survived. That was Cornelius, Zira, and Milo, who everyone forgets about, which is fair, because he doesn't do that much. They land on Earth. Milo gets killed straight out of the gate. Quite literally, he's, like, in a cage when he gets killed by a gorilla. And then, of course, you know, the film, Zira and Cornelius, they go off. They're running away from the feds and stuff like that after they were treated like celebrities. And they have a child who they name Milo. Not Caesar yet, he's just Milo. And, unfortunately, they're cornered on a boat. I'm not sure why it's a boat, but very, very tragically, probably the single darkest moment in all these movies, whether we're just talking the original films or the ones that came after. Zira and Cornelius are gunned down by humans, and it's awful to see. And not just them, but also the baby that they're holding, who, again, we think is Milo. We're pretty certain it's Milo at this point. We see the kid get shot. It's terrible. That really took me. It was awful to watch. But then you get this quote-unquote payoff, where you go back into Martaban's circus, and you see a baby chimp who's saying mama. And that implies there was a baby swap. You had that other chimp, which is weird to say, because I don't think that the other mother in that circus was a chimp herself. I think that was a different ape altogether, but whatever. There's a baby swap, and then the baby that's left behind in the circus is Milo, who will become Caesar. This ending, I don't know, it's tough for me. I wouldn't say it's satisfying. It's an ending that makes perfect sense, and it works in tandem with the theme of this movie. And the really bizarre thing about Escape is the tone, in that it starts out like a very zany, cheesy 70s sitcom almost. Like, you have like the apes, like, just getting new suits. You have this cute, like, Goldsmith music in the background and all of that. Then all of a sudden it just becomes this family drama, and they're on the run. They're being chased by people with guns and everything, and it's horrifying. Family gets gunned down, and then we're just left with little Milo trapped in a cage. I think the only reason why it's at number 4 is because I love the other 3 endings that we have to talk about so much more. Because I think, I just appreciate their ambiguity a little bit more. There's still a little bit room for that optimism. There's a little bit of that gray area in there. So this one, like, it's not as totally nihilistic and one note as Beneath, because you have Milo at the very end in the cage and he's alright. But I guess the reason why I wouldn't want to put it any higher, I don't know, it's because, yeah, I just like the other 3 endings really more than that. Like, I think all 4 are great in their own respective ways for their movies. So I'm not going to dwell on that too much more. I'm just going to move on to my third entry here. I'm no professional, like, cinematic movie student or anything like that, so that's why I'm just rattling off here. I'm just doing this for fun, okay? In my third place, I just watched this movie today, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. A lot of people put this at the very bottom of their list, kind of with Beneath. They're usually bucketed together. But honestly, I rewatched Battle. I actually really liked it. I went in, like, I love watching YouTube and seeing videos of people ranking their movies, reacting to them for the first time if they've never seen them before, especially in light of the new quadrilogy that's happened recently. And a lot of people dislike Battle and characters in Battle, and I understand a lot of their critiques, and they're totally fair, honestly. But I rewatch Battle just to reevaluate myself, but I think I still really like it. I like how it's a a lot more isolated, and it doesn't feel like it's a huge cinematic scope. It feels more episodic, like this is just a little moment within the Apes timeline, but I'm okay with that. I like that it's smaller scale. Obviously, it's working with a smaller budget, but it's not as visually apparent, but it works in tandem with the story. It's ground level, it's in a forest, and for a time it's in an industrial post-apocalyptic landscape for a brief window of time. But that being said, I really liked Battle overall. And I really liked its ending. So we have Caesar basically killing Aldo, who killed his son Cornelius, named after his father, of course. And at the very end, of course, this whole story is just a retelling from the lawgiver, as he was credited in the credits. And you have this group of students being some apes, some children, and one of the human children says, "Who knows about the future?" And then she kind of gets in a little bit of a skirmish with one of the chimps, which is kind of perfect. And then the franchise ends with a push-in to a statue of who is probably Caesar, and the statue weeps. And I want to talk a little bit longer about Battle, because I just watched it, and I don't think this movie gets enough credit. Because I do think it is one of the stronger Apes movies, not just within these five, but in the entire timeline of the films themselves, no matter what continuity you're talking about. I think the reason why this ending is so good is, again, to provide context, Aldo is a total buffoon, absolute idiot, but I think a really good foil in that regard, because he catches Cornelius kind of eavesdropping on his plans to take over their little village and overthrow Caesar. And as a result of that, he cuts off the branch that Cornelius is sitting on, and Cornelius falls, gets fatally injured, and eventually later on in the film he dies. And then, of course, you have the whole battle with the proto-mutants, I guess you could call them, against the apes. The apes win, of course. And then even though Caesar lets them go to live, Aldo finishes them off. And then eventually Virgil tells Caesar, yeah, Aldo probably killed your kid, and Aldo makes no effort to defend himself. He just cowers away. Caesar chases him up into a tree, and very poetically, just like the kid he killed before, Aldo falls from a tree, and he also perishes. And the reason why I think this ending works so well, and why it's so underrated, is because in this moment, Caesar, the greatest ape of them all, he too is vulnerable to vengeful tendencies. And that's kind of what tempts Virgil to say, can't an ape just killed an ape, so how are we in any way better than humans? He said something along those lines. I'm very heavily paraphrasing here, but that's what convinces Caesar, yeah, we should just let these humans go. We're just as flawed as they are. No species is necessarily superior or lesser. Both of us have really good strengths and really terrible weaknesses. And then you have the ending of the film where the statue is weeping, and that's a really interesting, bittersweet note to leave the franchise off on right there. We don't know about the future, as the kid says. Neither species is sure. And more importantly, after Zira and Cornelius travel back into the past and give birth to Milo/Caesar, can the future be changed for the better? Can he do that? Can the humans and the apes work together with this knowledge and improve and coexist together? We don't know. And that's a very human question if you just remove the ape subtext. Can we as a human species, between our different religions, faiths, races, backgrounds, economies, and all that, can we do that? Just on a simple, exclusively human level? Can we, look ahead into our future, or at least predict it, and steer away towards something better? A better destiny for us all. And I think this is a really sweet ending. And it's probably the most hopeful of all of them, really. Again, you could also twist this as, Caesar didn't have a chance. There was nothing he could do to improve the ape-human relations, because he, too, perpetually throughout both films where he's adult Caesar, is very, very flawed, and never quite reaches that ultimate level of being a leader that everyone, the audience and the apes alike, picture him as being. He never quite gets there. He remains flawed throughout the entire narrative. And yeah, that lends to why I think Battle has a really great ending. Although I do think there are two that are better, and I mean, if you're paying attention, you're narrowing it down. There's only two left here, and you know what those movies are. In the second place, obviously, it's Conquest. Conquest for the Battle of the Apes. Again, Caesar. Conquest for the Battle of the Apes. Conquest for the Planet of the Apes. This goes back to Caesar once again. And Conquest is an interesting one because there's two endings to this movie, and they're only different within like the last 10-30 seconds of them, where in the original produced ending, Caesar has his monologue about how he's going to work to purge and hunt down the humans in the same way that apes have been hunted and persecuted, and ultimately his guerrilla army, they slaughter all the humans, I think except for perhaps McDonald, and the movie just cold ends there. But I think after initial audience reactions, they, admittedly in a very choppy fashion, they went in and they didn't even refilm the new ending. Rather, I think they just had Roddy McDowall come back in and re-record his lines. If you rewatch this ending, and you don't even have to pay a really keen eye to it, you'll notice that after Lisa says no, you'll see a lot of recycled footage. That's not just recycled, but also zoomed in, reversed, so it looks like the gorillas are picking their rifles back away from their human prisoners. So, choppiness aside, editing aside, this new ending we get is that Caesar says, if we're going to dominate humanity, then we should do so with compassion and understanding. He says, yeah, we're going to rule from here on out, but we're going to be better than what the humans were. And then, of course, this transfers into Battle, where we see that he's still being kind of a hypocrite as well. He's still not quite perfect. He doesn't totally own up to those standards that he put in place in Conquest, the movie before. But no matter which ending you prefer, Caesar, Roddy McDowall, again, one of my favorite characters in all of movie history, top three probably, absolutely sells either monologue. Again, the theatrical monologue is the same monologue as the unreleased cut, just a little shorter. The theatrical one's just a bit longer and makes him more compassionate, which I prefer personally. A lot of people prefer, oh, he should just kill a human straight up. I get it, sure, but more thematically, from a character developing perspective, I like the idea that Caesar's teetering. He's not completely one way or the other. He wants to attempt to make things better, but at this point in his story, he's still saying apes have the upper hand, and they're going to call the shots as to whether humans prosper or not. But that being said, they're still going to do their best to give them a second shot. But yeah, it really boils down to Roddy McDowall's performance. And a little sidebar here, the reason why I love Roddy McDowall so much is the fact that, I'm sure anyone who's watched this far into this video knows this, is that he plays Caesar and he played Cornelius before that. And both of them, even though they kind of have the same face, they definitely have the same eyes, they're very distinctly different characters. Cornelius, he's a lot more of a skeptic. He's a scientist. He's very stoic in the way that he presents itself. He asks a lot of questions and things like that. But then as for Caesar, he's kind of a loose cannon. He's pretty much a young kid in Conquest and in Battle. He's not totally sure where he stands, whereas I'd say Cornelius is a little bit more confident in where he is, and he adapts to change a little bit faster. When new information presents itself, he's a little reluctant, but he's like, all right, yeah, we got a talking human here, and we got to do something with this information. We need to reevaluate these ancient scrolls, right? But again, we're jumping ahead a little bit. But that being said, that's pretty much what I got to say about Conquest. Really strong ending, no matter which ending you prefer, but canonically, the theatrical one is what informs Battle, so that's one that I'm speaking to here. As for number one, what's the best ending? It's damn you all to hell. Apes 1968. One of the greatest plot twists / endings in storytelling. Forget film, in storytelling. And, well, this movie was based on a French novel. I'm not sure how accurate this movie was to that novel, so I couldn't speak to whether or not even this ending is accurate to the book. But as a film, I mean, this movie is almost perfect. I mean, you bring a magnifying glass up to any movie, Godfather, Gone with the Wind, any movie, you're going to find flaws. You always will. But in terms of a viewing experience, in terms of a narrative, this movie's basically perfect. There's little I would change about it. It's an excellent movie. My only complaint about it, I've talked about the Apes movies before, so if any of you have been following this channel or my other player display channel, then you know this already. But when my mom went to show me these movies for the first time, for some reason she spoiled the ending of Ape 68 to me, and I feel very robbed of that experience. But later on in my life, she showed me Psycho, and I did not know the ending to that movie. So I was totally floored by that. So all is forgiven. That's okay. But objectively speaking, my experience aside, if you're watching this movie totally raw, no knowledge at all of what this movie is about beyond the title, yeah, this ending, it's uncontestable. There's no ending here in this franchise, in this quintilogy, or in the 5 movies that came after, that can usurp what we had in 68. It's absolutely perfect. And one of the reasons that makes it so great, kind of an undersung hero of this entire franchise, is Taylor. I mean, after him you get Zero and Cornelius, they get center stage and Escape. And then, of course, you have 2 versions of Caesar. And then in later movies, you also get Koba, who's a really big deal, and a whole bunch of other fan favorites down the line. But Taylor, he kind of gets forgotten because he's the first character who talks, who we meet in these films. And the stage is set from his very first monologue, where he's saying, like, yeah, here we are in the stars, we're going to go and find some secrets, we're going to learn mysteries that the humanity we left behind will never have the pleasure of ever knowing, because we're so far ahead of them. He's kind of a cocky bastard. He's very arrogant. He's very overconfident. In that, oh yeah, man, we're just going to progress. We're going to get our answers. Things are going to be great. And whether we die trying or we're able to go back and deliver our findings, we're going to be the only people who have this truth. That he lands in the planet of the apes. His friends are killed. One is taxidermied, which is pretty wild. And he starts learning more and more about this ape culture. And he's like, wow, this is another planet where humans were once at least intelligent, capable of speech. They could produce, hey, I got a doll over there, dolls, which could also speak, proving that they could think, that they were sentient. And then the question is like, wait, so how is it that apes were able to usurp the ultimate apex predator that I'm representing being on this planet? And as Zaius tells him, you won't like what you find. And he finds the Statue of Liberty. And that crushes this little man. He realizes in that moment, he's nothing. He is nothing in the grand scheme of things. He's no hero. He's no whistleblower. There's no people left for him to return to with this knowledge. He has no value. It's a perfectly earned but nihilistic ending. There is no more hope for this man. And honestly, this could have just been a one-shot movie. There could have been no more sequels, no franchise. At the end of the day, I'm glad that we still had the movies that came after it, for better or for worse. Some I prefer more than others, obviously. Beneath, I have a lot of opinions on. But as a standalone, this movie is so powerful. You don't need to watch any of the movies after this. You don't need to watch the movies from Beneath to Battle. You don't need to watch the Burton one, obviously. You don't even need to watch the Andy Serkis movies. And then the fourth one, where Andy Serkis isn't in that one. As far as I know. He could have been somebody. I don't think so, though. You could have just watched Planet of the Apes, 1968, and had an absolutely perfect cinematic experience. And this ending is what wraps it all together in a nice bow. So yeah, you can't discredit this ending. You can't discredit this film. Anyone who says that one of the later Apes movies is stronger than the first one, the only way I can agree with that is that maybe they prefer more action, less narrative. Fair. But to say that any movie that came after this one is stronger, that's a hard uphill battle. Largely due in part to how strong this ending is. This ending is basically invincible. You can't pull anything from it. You can't beat around the bush on it. You can't critique it. it it's amazing. It's really, really great. And all the endings that we saw after this in the quintilogy, they're all informed and weighed against this finale that we have here in the original 68 film. So that's all I got to say. Just a quick little impromptu video that I've been wanting to do for a while. I didn't want to overly plan it. I didn't want to overly script it or anything. Again, all I wrote down was just the order of the movies and some quick little footnotes, not even sentences. But yeah, that's all I got. I love and adore the Apes movies a lot. I should have mentioned a spoiler warning at the beginning of this video. I'll add one later, that's fine. But yeah, if you still, for some reason, watch this video and you have not seen the original movies, they're free on YouTube last I checked, if you want to check. I have the DVD box set, which I've been using, but if you go on YouTube, you should be able to find them pretty easily. Search them up by date if it's a little tricky. But yeah, watch them in order, and don't worry about people saying, oh, don't watch the sequels, oh, don't watch Beneath, don't watch Battle. Just watch them and enjoy them. They all do something really interesting. They're all very creative. All of them, no matter where their quality is, they all try something new, so you're never bored. They're really great films. That's why I love them so much more than the remakes that we've been getting. Well, more just total reboot, but even then, the new movies can't help but call back to the originals. But that's a conversation that we've had already. So, yeah, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a few things out of this. And let me know how you'd rank the endings of the movies in the comments below. Or just pick your favorite, pick your least favorite. Or give me some insights that I haven't thought about, too. Again, I'm just a guy with a computer and a mic. So, yeah, I'm curious to know what you're thinking, too. So, yeah, I hope that your weekend is going to be a little colder than what I'm experiencing over here in the Northeast right now. In Massachusetts, it's really freaking hot out there. I want no part of it. So, all that being said, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you in the next video, whatever that might be.